sound.
Alrighty. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Um, Golly, about myself.
Yeah, I know that you're from Boston. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I lived in Boston for the last 11 years before I came to Amsterdam.
uh-huh.
And then that was in 2003.
2003.
And apart from that, I'm like, well, I'm a small-time filmmaker.
A small time film.
I'm not really prepared to talk at length about who I am. I hadn't thought about that for a while.
Well, I just your most popular YouTube video is the moon hoax not, in which you talk
Yeah,
about the fact that we didn't have the technology to stage a moon landing.
true. I mean, I did, and it was it had the most views because I seem to have stepped on a landmine with that one. There's a lot of people that are involved in that argument on a quasi-religious level,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people came out of the woodwork.
it,
on
it,
that
it,
subject.
it definitely sounds like it. I want to move over to your sound plays, something that I
Okay.
absolutely admire. I first heard Gallus Gallus. Is that correctly pronounced?
Yeah.
I first heard that
That's
uh, maybe last year in May, and
yeah, that makes sense.
I I'm honestly surprised that you don't have as many views as it as is. I'm very surprised that it isn't as popular because this goes for 4 videos, correct? The Mungo
Yes.
Royo series.
Yeah. First, I just put them as sounds up on SoundCloud, and then I made like sort of, if you will, subtitled versions of them and put that on YouTube, which made it easier for some people to watch and to understand what the words were, for one thing.
Yes.
And that I think I can't remember exactly when we did the first one, but it was my friend Jocks who encouraged me to do it. I had said that I wanted to do such a thing for a long time. In fact, I think I've been thinking about making a sound play. I wanted to make some kind of futuristic sound plays starting back in the 80s, back in the 1980s. Never really had the technology to do it, and I'm not a sound engineer either.
Yep.
But finally, I ended up with the software that I needed to be able to give it a try anyway.
Uh-huh.
And I did have some experience making electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
So I just took, my propensity to write dialogue, and I asked my friends to be in them. I don't think there's any professional actors in the things at all. We just wrote the scripts. And of course, because I was already here in Amsterdam, I thought, well, why don't I make something that is supposed to be in a future version of Amsterdam? Because I already have the sounds of Amsterdam all around me, right?
Yep.
I don't have to go too far to get anything.
No. So, I personally would like to know how do you go get the sounds for your sound plays? Do you go out to various locations and set up
Yes.
an audio setup?
Yeah, I have a little Zoom recorder, the kind that's very popular nowadays.
Yep.
I picked it up, I think, in 2010, and I've been going, every time I wanted to get some sounds, I just have that with me. And kind of fits in the coat pocket. It's not very big. And it takes reasonably good stereo sounds, at least for my ears. And then you just, plug it into the computer and you copy the sounds over, and then you can start using them in the edit.
Oh.
So yeah, I collected sounds in different places that I went to. Also, if I did a little bit of traveling,
Mm-hmm.
I had some sounds from Rome, which we used in the last of those Mungo Royal sound plays.
That was Lady Springtime, correct?
Yes, Lady Springtime. That was supposed to be happening mostly in Rome.
Yes. I had a question for you, and I completely skipped. Mungo Royo, he's I couldn't figure out who Mungo Arroyo was. Is he some sort of deity? Sorry about that. Is he some sort of deity that the people look up to? Could you maybe spill the beans about him a bit?
Well, it appears to be that in this futuristic city that they call Megadam, that everything is under control, but that there's this figure who kind of comes in and saves the day sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, because the thing is, if you meet Mungo Arroyo, he's an ice cream man. First of all, he can give you ice cream. And he shows up in the strangest places, like in places where you wouldn't expect an ice cream truck to be hanging around. But I think of him as a sort of a Superman character because he usually comes in and saves the day sometime near the end of the play, and in a way rescues people from something, either from some kind of delusion or from something bad that might actually be happening to them, as in the case of the one where they were under the bridge. Now, what's the name of the third one? Now I can't remember.
I have it right here. It's Vienna Escapes.
Oh yeah, Vienna Escapes. Yeah, that was the most complicated one, in fact, because I had like 6 people almost all the time in the play, and I had to actually get an engineer to come help record the dialogue for me. But yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed Vienna Escapes. Just a lot of the character interactions in it I thought were wonderfully done. The acting specifically was very, very good for no-name actors or people who haven't even acted before, as you have said. Now, Vienna Escapes is the one where she wants this big, huge thing of ice cream, correct?
In Vienna Escapes, there's this sort of heiress, a billionaire heiress, who is famous for being, being a bad girl, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And she decides she's not quite the bimbo that everybody thinks she is, and then she decides, and we can hear her narration as she's doing this, that she's going to run away from all that fame and glory that she's got. And that's how she ends up wandering through the city, unrecognizable because she shaved off her hair, and nobody can tell who she is anymore.
Yep.
And then that's kind of commingled with the stories of these other characters who she sends them out to try to find some guava ice cream in a place where nobody thinks there is guava flavored.
That's
ice
right.
cream.
It was guava. I was thinking it was.
Yeah, and that's how that's how she gets rid of them in the first place. And then these omniscient ice cream man seems to know that she's going to need a pint of guava ice cream, and so he ends up bringing some to this place under the bridge where the sort of down and out characters are hanging. And that happens right at the same time that the police, the Monsanto police, come in trying to recruit some labor for their farms, and they pick up the big guy there, who is actually the bartender from the cave. That's funny.
Yeah, you put
I just ask everybody to be in this. All my friends.
Yeah. Well, I know your sound plays definitely inspired me to make one of my own, and how would somebody, let's say with me, I don't have exact access to decent sized audio equipment. What would be your kind of advice to maybe make a sound play?
You mean how to do one?
Yeah, how would you not step by step, but how?
Yeah. Well, I think that once you go through the script a couple of times and you make it so that you think that you like the script itself. You write the script in a way that you think you can pull it off. Like imagine who you could get to play those characters. That would be how I'd do it if I was doing it on no budget, which is what I have been doing. And then record the sound however you can, and let's just bring it into some kind of sound editing program. In my case, I wasn't using a very good one, but it was, I sort of figured out how to work around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing that would help is if you knew somebody whose music you'd like to use in there, who wouldn't mind having it, having you take some of their music and use it in there, because that helps a little bit sometimes to break things up. But a lot of it is also just about editing, not just the dialogue, but working with sounds themselves, the environmental things. I think that's kind of the fun part, to make it feel like you're in some kind of imaginary place, a place that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
But based on real sounds. I think that's the cool thing.
Yeah. So
I guess I would start with the script and try to make the script as something that's accessible to you, something doable.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that make a script that you can do within the local confines of oneself.
I would, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would ask people around me, like, hey, would you like to be in a sound play?
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, kind of work with the idea of their voices in it, because sometimes that works out best is if you kind of hear the sound of that person as you're writing it.
Uh-huh.
I would say that helps.
Yeah.
I mean, in the case of the one we were just talking about, the Vienna Escapes play, mm-hmm. I really had almost all of those people already in mind by the time I wrote the final version of the script. And I had asked them, would they do it,
Yeah.
And I think there was a couple of people that we fitted in at the last minute because we needed a couple of more people. Oh, yeah, like the photographers that were taking pictures as she arrived at the hotel.
Yeah.
Those are just a few guys that happened to be in town that happened to actually be photographers. So I said, here, play this part for me while you're here.
All right.
But most of it was, most of the main characters were people who I already had their sound in my head as I was writing the dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think that helps.
So in the fourth and final one, Lady Springtime, you had the Water Whisperer's Elise voice. Ilsa. You had her come on. How did you pull that off?
I think I met her about a year before that. One time she wrote something on Facebook, I think, that made it sound like she was going through a rough time.
Mm-hmm.
So I invited her to come to town and have dinner. Mm-hmm. And then she started meeting some of my friends, and then we started hanging out. And then Chris came over.
Yep.
And he was here for a few months. And Chris is actually in one of the other sound plays, as a matter of fact. Mm-hmm. So, Chris is her sweetheart. And so at some point, I think it was after, Chris appeared in Vienna Escapes as the radio interviewer, the radio reporter.
Yep.
And then I had it in mind that Ilsa could maybe play the part of the doctor in Lady Springtime. And she was like, yeah, man, I'll do it. And we did it in an afternoon.
Wow.
So she just, she knew where I lived already. Mm-hmm. And we'd been hanging out on and off for a while.
All right. I want to kind of segue this into ASMR and what you have done with it. You've done 2 videos, to my knowledge, where you kind of make a parody of it. Your makeup role play, and the next one, Colin Examines You.
Yes, right.
And how exactly did you get involved with ASMR?
I believe that what happened was, if I remember correctly, that I was interested in relaxation videos in principle because I wanted to make them. And so I started looking around for what that kind of stuff would be, like, who was out there doing what. And that was how I stumbled on this phenomenon, this sort of self-emergent, self-organizing phenomenon of the people, this culture of people who are just making YouTube videos to try to relax each other. And I thought it was pretty fascinating because it's the kind of thing, like, if you tried to pitch that to a media company to like for TV or something, they would be like, "You're out of your mind. You can't do something like that. TV is supposed to be exciting.
Exactly.
You're not supposed to fall asleep."
Exactly.
And yet, and I had always thought it would be a good idea to have something like that where you could just kind of turn something on and use it to chill, and it would kind of stay out of your way. And so when I found people doing that, I was like, well, that's pretty interesting. So I think that I feel as though I'm not actually involved in that whole business, but I'm sort of a supporter of it, and I like a lot of the people that are involved, and I like what they do. I think it's just kind of a fascinating thing that people can go and try to create, what do they call it, world peace without the ideology. You know? So I feel like I've been sort of orbiting around the edges of that phenomenon, and maybe saying something supportive now and then. And of course, I made the 2 videos where I was trying to be funny.
Yep. And you made, I think 2 more ASMR-ish videos in which you roll those 12 cigarettes.
That's true, yeah.
And then
and I think I did another one where I imitated the people who show you what's on their bookshelf, that kind of thing.
I believe I was more thinking of the over your shoulder when you're in editing and what was it, Final Cut?
I remember how that happened. Yeah, excuse me. My old boss told me that when I was working in After Effects, that I reminded him of Bob Ross.
Yes. You said that.
Okay, maybe I'll try doing like an hour or hour and a half of me just designing with the camera looking over my shoulder, and kind of show some techniques, but try to be like one of those ASMR people. And so I guess I did those things. Yeah. And I don't know if it wasn't so much that I was trying to become one of them. I don't think I ever had it in my mind that I would become, one of the ASMR people, but for some reason I made those three or four clips that I guess could qualify as an attempt or an imitation of them.
Well, I
wouldn't say that that's. I would say though that it's not something that I'm especially good at, and so it's probably not something that I keep trying to do. I think of myself now as just kind of like somebody applauding them.
I definitely know where I go for my videos. Your videos, both the Collins Examines You and the other one, I'm blanking now.
You mean the one about makeup?
Yeah, the makeup. They absolutely love it, and I wanted to tell you that. Now, what is the one video on your channel that you are very proud of, that you put hard effort into it? I mean, obviously you put hard blood, sweat, and tears into all of your work, but what is that one project that you're very proud of?
Okay. You mean on my Collins YouTube channel?
Yes.
I wish I had. I probably could have thought of that if I'd thought of it ahead of time. I think the most useful YouTube video that I've made probably is the one called Conscious Screen Text, that people could use to sort of learn about. Anybody who's making videos might get a thing of get a little bit of goodness from that in terms of learning how to make titles on screen, because there's a lot of it that they don't, just a lot of stuff they haven't been thinking about. And I think in the anarchy category, I had a lot of good response from the video that's called My Trouble with Nations, which visually is not very exciting at all. It's just kind of me sitting there talking. But I'm happy that we have like something like 15,000 views on a thing that I would never expect anybody to want to look at.
Yes.
But that feels good for me that I got some people to listen to my thoughts on a thing like that. So I'd say those are successes.
That's
for me.
And you're starting up.
I also
continue.
I also just put some of my own, little documentaries and stuff on there too. Like I have a film from 2002 on there that I made about a guy that lived in my neighborhood, and there's one called Niets Zeggend, which is about a choreographer that I used to know, who is not with us anymore. Actually, she died. Things like that. Sometimes I put some of my professional work on there, and sometimes these, things that I don't necessarily think of as YouTube videos. But well, there's another one called Tubular Apocalypse, which I'm actually quite proud of. I would say as an editing function. And what Tubular Apocalypse was about me and my relationship to people on YouTube. It was like, how am I interacting with all these people? And I felt like I was getting some lessons in the fragility of human beings, and because so many remote people that you'd never actually meet, you can find them on YouTube. So I made like a 17-minute movie where I just took lots of clips from people's YouTube channels and stole them outright and put them together in a way that it was a sort of message for me. And I felt like I was in love with all these people.
Now, was that the video where you talked about your where you don't allow the comments? Because you do something that I asked.
Apocalypse was from about a year ago. I think it was from last fall, and it's just like a kind of an exploration of me being on YouTube. There was at some point a video where I made about the fact that I had comments turned off, and when I decided I'll just turn them on. Hell, it's too much trouble trying to explain. every day, I was getting somebody to say, "Why do you have the comments turned off?" So finally, I said, "Never mind. I'll just put them on."
Well, I liked the fact that you turned off the comments, because that means that I had to physically email you something. I remember last year, maybe a little later around this time, I emailed you about the sound plays and how much I absolutely loved it, and the fact that you take the time to answer the emails personally is really a big up for me. And I think there are a lot of YouTube channels that couldn't do that because they have just too many people, but yours is just fantastic. And I hate to say this, but I was a little disappointed when you turned on the comments.
Yeah, I don't like comments. I mean, I don't think it's. I don't think. I mean, I sometimes use them to say something on somebody's video, but I don't really like doing that. I don't like having them. I wish it could just be that people would email me if they have something to say, and it's easy enough to find me. I mean, it's not that hard if people do want to email me. But I think a lot of people just don't want to do that. They don't want to engage in a direct conversation. So yeah, the only reason why I ended up turning them on really was because it was too much trouble. It was really a burden trying to explain every other day or to somebody or two or three people why. I even made a video about why the comments were turned off, and nobody watched it. They just kept asking me. So it was finally, the number of emails I got about that was in excess of any other communication that I got about anything else. And finally I said, well, never mind, I just can't do this anymore.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, but I did turn the comments on.
Yep.
And now I don't have to read them. So.
You also turned off likes or dislikes on your YouTube channel for the longest time, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, who cares?
That's very true. But I was just wondering, wouldn't that gauge what people liked and didn't like?
I think that's what it's for, yeah. I'm not sure what it's for. I mean, I've never made films because I wanted to see how... it's not a popularity contest for me. It's not like this is about winning. And I think that's what they've done. I mean, the fact that you have to click like on everything in the world, or or dislike or whatever, that kind of thing. That is not necessarily working for us, right? It's not for us, the users. It's for somebody else, and it's part of the whole process of gamification of every cultural thing in the world, where they're trying to turn it into a contest.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not involved in a contest, so I just kind of ignore that stuff.
Have you always just been about making the best that you can make, film-wise?
I don't think that I make the best that I can make, but I try to do something reasonably good. But no, I'm not about doing the best that I could possibly do. I just do, what I can in the time that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're asking me? I'm not sure if I'm getting the question.
Yes. I'm just asking you if every video that you put out is your best, 100%. You feel like
not. No, I mean, no. I mean, they're actually. I mean, I think they're reasonably good considering that there's no budget for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're particularly excellent.
Okay. Well, I got to be honest. I'm actually out of questions.
Okay.
It was absolutely wonderful to
Let
talk
me
with
ask you a question. You're involved as a consumer of the ASMR stuff, right, Mike?
Yes, I am a consumer of it.
Well, what I was wondering is if you have an opinion about why are there so many of those ASMR people who are also into video games, like they're passionately into video games. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, because I was always wondering, why is there such an extreme? I noticed that I was getting a lot of subscribers, for example, who their whole channel was only about games, and yet they were coming from the ASMR community, and I was just trying to figure out why. I'm looking for theories about why that is. I even asked Ilsa about it, and she's not sure either.
Well, I think it's more to the fact that I'm going to generalize here is that YouTube is 12 to 18-year-old kids, teenagers, and they like their video games, males, and I think it's less to do with the fact that they. I mean, let me think here. I think it's just they like video games, and it doesn't really have to do really with I don't know where I was going there.
So so you don't think there's a connection between the ASMR phenomenon and the video game phenomenon, but rather that the fact that they are YouTube users means that they're going to be predominantly teenage power users. That would explain it.
I believe that the main population of YouTube would be, teenage males, and I would believe most of them probably play video games.
Okay.
I mean, I have a few video games on my channel, but I did that because I was bored someday. And,
yeah. I was just kind of mystified by that because I don't. I'm absolutely not involved in video games at all. I was like, where is this coming from? But no, it kind of makes sense if it's just that
it's also,
all the young people are playing video games.
It's also a very big thing. They're probably doing a thing called Let's Plays, where they go through a video game and comment on it. They're trying to emulate what others have done very successfully, I might add, such as the Game Grumps. Toby Turner, he does one, I believe. He's very successful. PewDiePie, he has one where he goes through video games, and that dude I think makes 6 figures a year. And
because everybody wants to see.
Yeah, everybody wants to do what's very popular right now, and so that's probably why you see a lot of Let's Plays in video games. It's because it's popular.
Yeah. Okay, well that makes sense.
All right. It was absolutely fantastic talking with you.
Cool.
I really appreciate it.
Then I will let you go, Mike. I hope you have a well, you're going to be going to
bed.
It's nighttime for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you have a pleasant evening.
Thank you very much. It's evening where you are, correct?
Editing.
It's evening where you are?
Say it again?
It's evening where you are?
Right now, it's almost 25 to 7 in the morning.
Oh, I did not know that.
I thought I told you I'm 6 hours later than you.
Yeah, I've had a very long day.
I think I would like to try to get rid of time zones.
That would
I think
work,
they're
wouldn't
stupid.
it? I think Star Trek had it right. They had one universal time.
Yeah, well, we have it, and your computer's using it, and the internet is using it, and we just don't use it for some reason. But if we did all, if we all used UTC time, then we would not have, we wouldn't have so much confusion about when something's supposed to happen. I actually wrote a whole article about that a few years ago for the Mental Shoes magazine. But yeah, I think we should abolish time zones because they're just causing us grief.
I think time zones make sense because it's like it becomes very weird when all of a sudden you have the sun is up at midnight or 2 a.m.
I don't know about that. I don't think so at all. I mean, it's a name, I mean, if you think about the sunrise, well, particularly where I live, when the sun comes up varies by 4.5 hours across the year. Sometimes the sun doesn't come up until after 8 o'clock, and sometimes it comes up just after, like, somewhere between 3 and 4. And so there is no sense to when the celestial things happen. They happen whenever they're going to happen. So if I was just, if I had to get up for work and be someplace at 2300, I would just, try to get up at, to 2100 and be there on time. And it doesn't matter if that turns out to be morning or evening, or it doesn't matter what the names of the hours are. If you know where you have to be. Like I had to, I knew I'm going to call you at 6 in the morning.
Yep.
Well, in fact, it's like 4 in the morning UTC at that time, I think, because we're still on fallback. Anyway, I think we could ditch the whole idea and everybody would be a lot less confused, because nowadays people don't work locally anyway. They work with each other around the world.
Yep. Well, it'd definitely be, at first I think it would be a huge shock to people if that ended up happening. But people might calm down. Who knows?
It would have made our life a lot easier trying to arrange this here little conversation.
Yeah.
You could have just told me, I want you to call me at 4 o'clock UTC on the 17th, and then I would have done it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things would be helped that way. But anyway, I'll get off my high horse now because I have to go pee.
All right. It was absolutely wonderful talking with you.
Hey, thanks, Mike.
Yep. Goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Hopefully. All right, that was my interview with Amsterdam filmmaker S.G. Collins. Back to you, Mike.